Welcome to the FF Face-Off, where fantasy football is debated.
What is going on, everybody? We are back. We are live. We are with Face-Off Sports Network. Also live on First Read. We're super excited to be here, Coach. We've got a ton of news to go through with training camp going on. We're getting ready for the first week of preseason games. It is great to be talking about some real football. What's your thoughts so far, Coach?
Man, it is great. You know, it's about the seasons getting closer and closer. It's about that time. The excitement's building more and more every day. I can't wait to get in here and talk a little fantasy football.
I know. We've got all sorts to break down. So if you are here, please be sure to like the stream, comment, let us know you're watching, let us know what's going on. There is a ton to break down, Coach, but we've got some news. We'll wait until we get some more people here. I see that we have 3 people here watching, so we appreciate everyone tuning in. But Coach, let's talk about the first news of the day, and that's Zach Moss gets released by the Cincinnati Bengals, which opens up a door for one of our favorite rookies, and that's Taj Brooks, who steps into a role of possibly being the RB2 behind Chase Brown. If anything should happen to Chase Brown, he becomes the immediate benefactor. What's your thoughts there, Coach?
Yeah, you know, you've been beating that Taj Brooks drum for a while. The dude was super productive in college at Texas Tech. The guy is just a workhorse in the backfield. We expected him to kind of be a handcuff kind of guy, RB2. At this point, though, he's going to see a little bit of run, which that helps. Zach Moss being released, I could see someone picking him up. He can help somebody's running back room for certain. I think about the Bears, for instance. You know, there are teams out there that could use a guy like Zach Moss, assuming he's coming back healthy. But, yeah, I mean, if you don't have a piece of Taj Brooks, you need to find some.
Yeah, I mean, you might check the waivers. I doubt he's there, but he is going to be one of those guys that I think might be a sneaky redraft play. Not early on, but again, if something should happen to Chase Brown, everyone's going to be flooding to the waivers to go and grab him. So if you've got a deep redraft league, definitely keep him on the bench, you know, just as that handcuff piece. But at the same time, I think it also adds the possibility of maybe being the goal line back. I mean, we saw this Bengals offense last year try and add someone to really run with Chase Brown because he's not necessarily the bruiser. I mean, he handled the workload great, so we'll give him credit there. But at the same time, we saw Zach Moss try and get his run. We saw them trade for Herbert midseason, and that didn't work. So I think the Bengals want another player to run with Chase Brown, and I think Taj Brooks is the perfect complement to that.
Yeah, and I do tend to kind of think, too, that this may open the door for Chase Brown even further. You know, I think they do love Chase Brown. I think they're happy with him, and now they have a quality guy that they drafted to go behind him. I just think it fits naturally for them. I do think maybe Chase Brown's pass pro has improved. They expect to be able to use him more consistently throughout the course of the upcoming season. So he's a guy looking forward over the next couple of years, especially if you're a dynasty player. If Chase Brown's on your team, that's something you got to be pretty pumped about.
Totally agree. Well, Pete jumped in. First comment of the day, Coach said, "Who is on the T-shirt, man?" It is Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin in the Step Brothers picture. And I have to give a shout out to Coach and his family. They're the ones that got me this shirt. Fantastic. I love it. It's a great shirt.
Yeah, my wife Ashley got him that. Really, it's a cool shirt. I hate the Commanders, but whatever.
He secretly loves them. It's okay. Scott says this is the best time of the year. I totally agree, Scott. You know, we got a lot of training camp news to break down. So I'm curious if you're still in here, Scott. What have you seen? What is the one thing that sticks out to you? What's the news that you've been kind of clinging to so far? Because I know there's a lot for us to break down. So please stay tuned. There's a bunch to go through. You want to move on from Brooks and Zach Moss, Coach?
Yeah, sure. We can move forward now.
Well, let's talk about some quarterbacks, and I don't think we can go too far without mentioning the number 1 overall pick, and that's going to be Cam Ward, your guy out of Miami who finds his way with the Tennessee Titans. Kind of having a quiet camp. There's not a lot of drum beats going around him, but the news we are getting is very positive, and he looks really good. So, Coach, I'll let you take it away first.
Well, you know, that's been the story of the all season for Cam Ward. Like, no one said a word about it, and they spent all their time talking about every single pass that Shedeur Sanders makes, and no one's mentioned Cam Ward, the Titans. I have been a big believer in Cam Ward for a while. We know that his weapons are pretty bad currently outside of Calvin Ridley. Gunnar Helm, they're saying, is looking good in camp. There's some guys like A.O. Manor and some other guys that are trying to make their presence felt there to help the Titans a little bit. I did see today where Cam Ward, after practice, they asked him how the offense was looking. And in true Cam Ward fashion, he was really honest and said it would just look really mid right now. He said that included him. He had work to do. He had to improve. He had to get better. But that's Cam Ward. Like, Cam Ward is a hard worker. He's a really high character guy. He's a dude that's going to own whatever he does. I expect him to be very mid this year. I mean, with the weapons he's got around him and that team on offense, I don't expect anything other than that. But I do think he's going to flash the potential to show what he's capable of in the next 2 to 5 years.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with Cam Ward is just tempering the expectations based around the weapons there. I mean, you mentioned them. It's a lot of unprovens. Now, we both have been on record saying we really like Calvin Ridley this year just because he's going to get a ton of opportunities. So there's a lot to like there for Calvin Ridley. This run game of Tajay Spears and Tony Pollard, is that going to be something that adds up to anything? I don't know. I don't think it's going to necessarily be anything to shake fantasy. But we've also talked about this. If Cam Ward stays healthy and he plays 17 games, don't be surprised if he sneaks into that, top 15 quarterback range, just given the opportunity that he has, where he's going to get to sit back there and throw the ball a ton. The Tennessee defense last year, not necessarily spectacular, but they definitely overplayed their abilities. And we've talked about that a little bit too before, Coach. I think you said they gave up the least amount of points in the entire league. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. It's a solid defense. If the Titans could just produce somewhat average on offense, then this is a team that could win 7 or 8 football games. I did see today, speaking of guys we liked in the past, saw Cam Ward threw a deep strike over the middle to Jaquan Jackson, who proceeded to drop it. The dude's fast. I had high hopes for him as a really late sleeper stash last year, and it's just not going good for me there.
It never really added up for him. Now, he didn't get a ton of, necessary runway for him to really take off and showcase his talents. But at the same time, you got to prove it, man. And it's plays like that where Cam Ward's not going to accept that. The coaching staff's not going to accept that. There's several guys there. I mean, we've talked about Calvin Ridley. You mentioned Io Manners there. Is it Chimere Dike, however you say his name? Apologies if that's wrong, but he's there. There's some players in there that are going to get that opportunity to showcase their talents and, try and be the big play, the splash plays for these teams, or for this team, excuse me. But, can they step up and do it? I don't know. Well, they're not necessarily high capital picks that were made. I mean, Cam Ward was the number 1 overall pick. And after that, these guys were selected in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th round.
Yeah, and I saw the GM was really honest with that when he just said, this roster is not great right now. It's just not, and there's a lot of room for improvement. I do expect a big year from Calvin Ridley as a result. Like, that dude's going to get peppered with targets. He's far and away their best player. Like, if it's redraft, I'm doing all I can in rounds 4 or 5, somewhere in there, to try to snatch up Calvin Ridley. I expect a really big year from him.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, we got a question from Scott here, Coach. So let's jump to this question before we get back to the quarterbacks. It says, Evans is working a lot on his off day. Is there anything to that? I talked about that this morning with Pete, actually. What do we think that means? I'm not too concerned about it. I think he's just trying to get back into that NFL shape, get back into the routine of things. Pete and I talked this morning of, how much of that is going to be him working into the slot. Obviously, Chris Godwin's starting the season off on the PUP list. I do think he'll be back here soon. At the same time, they've got the rookie Buka. Does he fall straight into that slot role? I don't know. I mean, one would think, because that's what he did at Ohio State. But it's not the first time where we've seen these older wide receivers transition to a slot role. I mean, Larry Fitzgerald was a very prominent role. He did that. We saw Julio do it a little bit. We saw I'm trying to think of some other big name wide receivers that transitioned in, just because it gives them easier opportunity to create, get the ball in their hands, and make some plays.
Yeah, this also could be a product of Ibuka being so dang good too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're acting like he's legit. Baker Mayfield's singing his praises. That's also a possibility here.
Totally agree. Yeah, so I don't think there's anything to really be concerned about right now as it stands, Scott, but I mean, it's definitely something to monitor because it kind of caught me off guard, especially this morning when Pete reached out to me about it. I thought, well, maybe we need to stop and think about this for a second. So we'll see. But for right now, we'll just keep going on. Jamie's in here. What's going on, Jamie? We appreciate you, as always, for tuning in. You're another loyal one, just like Scott. So, Coach, let's get back to the quarterbacks. We talked about Cam Ward. So let's spend a little bit of time. Let's talk about Shador. You mentioned him before. There's a lot of different information floating out there on X. And I don't want to spend too much time on Shador Sanders because simply right now it does not look like he's going to be the starter. But, it's one of those things where you'll see one page and it'll say he's the greatest quarterback of all time. And you'll see another one where he's thrown off to the side. And I know you watched the Browns practice, so I'm going to kick it to you so you can kind of let us know what you saw. But in my opinion, I think right now we need to still temper expectations on Shador Sanders. Remember what the capital was. Remember what the investment is. And he still has to work his way up this roster and this depth chart to get onto the field and see some real playing time.
Yeah, I watched one full drive from him yesterday against the Twos, I believe it was. He did not look good, not at all. Missed a guy wide open over across the middle. Got sacked a few times, some of which his fault, some of which not. You're right. X is full of him basically. Like you would think sometimes he doesn't throw an incomplete pass ever. He's the greatest quarterback ever. Now that room is really, really poor, and there is opportunity for him to continue to climb up the depth chart. But it's just amazing to me. Like it is nonstop Gabriel bashing, and then nonstop how great Shador Sanders is. I don't know. Maybe he is playing good. Yeah, I don't really know. I only saw one drive. I just think everybody needs to pump the brakes a little bit, let the guy figure it out. Flacco's going to be the starter. And let's just kind of see what happens.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. I think Flacco is going to be the guy that leads this team to start the year, and I think that's probably the right choice too. I mean, we've seen Flacco do it. He's dependable. Is he a superstar? No, but he knows how to run an offense. He knows how to take care of an NFL team and be a game manager. And I mean, let's be honest, the expectations in Cleveland right now, I don't even know. It's all over the place. I mean, you've got a great coach. You've got some pieces like Myles Garrett, obviously. But at the same time, there's so much dysfunction in Cleveland right now that it's tough to really make out what to even do.
Well, while we're talking about Cleveland, tell me your thoughts on Judkins. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of fantasy guys, me included, that have no idea what to do with that right now.
I mean, it's a major concern. I think right now we should definitely step back and take a second and see what's going on. I mean, the legal ramifications of it are all over the place. I mean, as it stands right now, we have the criminal investigation taking place and charges possibly being brought. It's a lot to take in and a lot to process. And that's outside of the civil side that will come after all of this. And what we do know is that the NFL is taking a much stronger stance against violence against women, just because that's been a notorious problem for the NFL, and it's one they want to get rid of. Now, obviously, we've talked in the past about the things like Rashee Rice, Jordan Addison, what happens with their suspensions. But again, those weren't crimes committed against the person with physical violence. A crime is a crime, so I don't want to get into that too much. But I do think that we have to recognize the fact that when these things happen, especially domestic abuse and domestic violence, it is a totally different level for this league to investigate in it. So, what am I doing with my shares? I think I have 2 dynasty shares of Judkins. I'm holding them. And, you might get some offers, but I think they're going to be really bad lowball offers. At least that's my experience so far. I mean, that certainly could change if someone were to say, offer me a first that had some upside, maybe like a first that could be early or mid. I would probably take advantage of that if I could afford it, or maybe try and just get something else. But I don't think anybody's going to make that bet because it's risky.
Yeah, you're kind of stuck when it comes to Judkins at this point. There are people out there that stash Dylan Sampson right now that are loving life. Dylan Sampson, Jerome Ford, those guys are going to play a role. I think the main question with Judkins would be that I would have for you is, would you touch him at all in redraft? And if so, like where?
No, for right now, I'm gonna avoid it just because we don't know what's gonna happen. Pending what happens with the investigation, if there's some sort of video or something like that comes out, that will change everything. Because I certainly think we could see the NFL taking a swift action with something like that. Because again, this has been a push for them for years. This is not something that they're like Addison or with Rashee Rice, where they involved speeding and cars and wrecks, and there's a lot to consider in that. And I'm not saying that they should just walk free and not have any punishment, but again, this has been a notorious problem for the NFL. So I expect if something were to come out that definitively shows this happened, I would not be shocked if the punishment is very quick and swift and probably pretty severe.
Yeah, I imagine so. Like, I wouldn't be shocked for at minimum a half a season type suspension. That's at minimum.
Yeah.
So
with the news that it's also been something that's possibly been reoccurring, I don't know. I mean, again, I'm speculating, just providing my ideas based on what could happen with the law and with the situations. But for right now, I think in redraft, I'm probably not going to touch him. If it falls and he's like in the 15th round, then sure, throw him on the end of your bench and see what happens. But if you're having to pay the cost of, between a 5th and a 8th round pick, I'd rather take someone else.
Right. I'm with you there. Hey, click on Cronster's message there. Yeah, he says he's out on Ridley at cost. I don't trust that team or offense. Well, someone has to catch the ball, right? That's how I look at it. Like, the offense is going to score occasionally, at least, and someone has to catch the ball, and that someone's going to be Calvin Ridley.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to think about it too, Coach. Last year he had 120 targets in this Titans offense, 64 receptions for just over 1,000 yards and 4 touchdowns, and that was with Will Levis and whatever hodgepodge of quarterback play they had. I think Cam Ward is much better than anyone that played in Tennessee last year. Right now, as it stands, I trust him. I know, Coach, we talked about it before, but he's one of those players where every level we've seen him play, he has improved his game, and he's improved fantastic, at great leaps. And I think you should kind of hit on the point we were talking about earlier today, I think, or maybe it was yesterday, of what people thought about him when he was moving from Washington State to Miami.
Oh, yeah. So some of you have probably seen the clip, the Gino Torretta talking to John Gruden, and John Gruden kind of asked Gino Torretta, what did you think about Cam Ward? Did you ever see him down at Miami? And Gino Torretta goes on to talk about how he saw Cam Ward, and he said the first time he saw him throw, he thought, wow. He said, in the NFL, there's 10 to 12 guys that spin the ball different from everybody else. And then everybody else in the NFL kind of throws it relatively the same. But he said Cam Ward is one of those 10 to 12. Like, his arm is different than everybody else's.
Yeah.
I mean, that alone is a separator.
Yeah. And we've seen, not necessarily to say it's the same thing, but we've seen these quarterbacks who step into these roles. Like, I'm a Washington fan. Did I expect Washington to make to the NFC Championship last year? Absolutely not. But Jaden Daniels elevated that offense to such a higher level. And I understand that Terry McLaurin's a pretty dang good player too in that regard. But at the same time, is he that much better than Calvin Ridley? I think he is better, but I think Calvin Ridley is a pretty good player. Outside of Terry McLaurin, Washington had next to nothing. I mean, that roster was not very good, and he elevated them and played extremely efficient. The offense moved the ball. They didn't turn it over. They didn't punt hardly ever. So if Cam Ward can do that with this Titans offense, which we've already talked about the defense, I think Calvin Ridley's the biggest benefactor of that. If you're telling me he gets 120 targets again, I'm all in on that.
Yeah, and I think he'll get more than that. I think it's possible he gets 130, 140 targets. The coaching aspect of this is one kind of an unknown here. I don't really know what that's going to look like, how that offense is going to roll. It just kind of remains to be seen.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I'm excited to watch this Titans offense. So we're getting close to where we get to actually find out. But let's jump to Josh's question, Coach. He says, what do you think is the best draft position in a 10-team PPR? I like the later picks this year, like 7 to 10, taking a leap back and a wide receiver back-to-back. I totally agree. We haven't done too many redraft mocks so far, so we're going to continue to do those. The last one we did, I had the 10th spot, so I was at the very end, and I took Amon-Ra St. Brown and Derrick Henry, but it was a 12-team league, and I loved the way my team turned out in that league. So I'm with you. I want the back end of the draft. What about you, Coach?
Yeah, I agree completely. I would much rather have 7 through 10 than 1 through 3, just to be totally honest there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you can get some really good value and some big-time players. So hopefully it works out for you, Josh, and you get the pick you want and you draft a great team. But I think this is kind of a good segue here, Coach, as we're talking about drafting. Big news here for us with the FF Mediators, and of course with the Face Off Sports Network and First Read. We are in the process of launching our Discord, and that is planned to launch on Friday. So we're super excited to put our Discord out there. There's going to be a ton of content. We have our personal rankings for both Dynasty and Redraft. We're going to have the opportunity to have trade reviews, team reviews, all sorts of things, direct access to talk to us, chat with us, talk about everything that's going on in the fantasy football world. And I think it's going to be a great opportunity for us to connect with you guys and get the opportunity to, help you win some fantasy championships.
Yeah, another thing too, if you get in on the Mediators Discord, you get the rankings for all three of us too, not just one ranking. You get one for all from Matt, Tyler, and myself.
Yeah, and our rankings are different. We're different people. We like different players. We have different things that go into our process. So you'll be able to see that inside of our rankings. But really excited to get those put out to the world. So stay tuned for that. We'll have more information. They'll be posted on YouTube. We're gonna have it on our X, on the Face Off X, on the First Read X. All sorts of ways to get to the Discord, which will have 2 different tiers with different packages for what you can get. But let's just jump on, Coach. Scott adds that he thinks Judkins just going to be a wash and redraft and best ball. Yeah, I think you're right, to be honest. That's probably the way to look at it. Zach is in here. As always, we appreciate you for being in here, Zach. Thanks for checking in. And then Chris adds, late pick is Genty smash all day. No heroism here. Or homerism, excuse me. Yeah, I mean, I like Genty. I think there's a world where he might be a little bit overvalued right now. But I think a lot of that just kind of has to do with the Raiders offense. Coach, I know you talked about that a little bit earlier.
Yeah, some of it's just I like to mess with Chris a little bit. Genty's a good player. I think he's going to be a good player. I don't think it's a lock that he's the greatest running back of all time, which some seem to act like he will be. But, it is what it is.
Well, one last Titans question here, Coach, before we move on. It's from Pete. And is Restrepo going to make that team? As an undrafted free agent with 2 wide receivers that were drafted ahead of him, Calvin Ridley on the roster, there are some question marks of could he make this team and maintain having an impact. I feel like he might. I feel like Cam Ward might push for him to stay on the team, just given the safety blanket he can be. Now, I don't know, Coach. You'll have to tell me. Has he been returning punts at all or been involved in any type of return game?
He has. They've been sharing that around. He got some run with the 2s today for the first time. It's been all 3s up until today, and he got a little run with the 2s today. The coach shouted him out after practice in his press conference. Gave him some nice pub there. I think when it comes to Restrepo, look, I love Restrepo, Miami's all-time leading receiver. Obviously, I think it's close. I wouldn't bet on him making the team because that world is hard for an undrafted free agent. Like, I think people forget, like, that's freaking hard. There's draft capital tied up in all these other guys. So for a free agent like that to make the team, it's difficult. I think Restrepo has the best chance. People were all over the Efton Chisholm bandwagon not long ago with the Patriots. I think Restrepo has a higher chance of making the team than he does. With that being said, I still think it's going to be an uphill climb, just because that's how that thing goes. Cam Ward obviously could lobby for Restrepo, and I think that will help. But he obviously needs to play good in the preseason. Ultimately he needs to make a couple splash plays in the preseason, and maybe get a little lucky. That's how this thing tends to work out for those guys.
Yeah, I think you're right there, Coach. But let's carry on with some more training camp news, and let's talk about another player that I think a lot of people are pretty high on, and that's going to be Cam Scattaboo. We've seen several plays of him just kind of running through, breaking tackles, running down the sideline. Coach, I'm just going to kick it to you first. Do you have any concerns about Tyrone Tracy? Do you think this is Cam Scattaboo's backfield to take over, or is this going to be more of a split?
I see this being a split. Tracy's not just going to cave and in the backfield just go straight to Cam Scattaboo. But it is very apparent that Cam Scattaboo is getting a lot of run with the 1s. Like, Cam Scattaboo is going to be a part of this offense from the beginning, it seems. I'm sort of kicking myself a little bit because when I watched him play, especially in his last 2 games with Arizona State, I loved it. Like, I really hyped up the type of football player that he was. And then his measurables didn't quite line up to that. But there are just people in this world that play football faster than they actually can line up and run a 40. Mm-hmm. And Cam Scattaboo is clearly one of those guys. I always think back to the playoff game where he splits out wide and beats the dude on the deep ball, who without a doubt runs faster 40 times than he does. But Cam just makes plays. When the ball is in his hands, he looks like he can really roll. And that has shown up in training camp. And I think at minimum, they're going to split this backfield.
Yeah, and with Cam, I always think about that outside run. I can't for the life of me think who they were playing, but I know he was the away team, and he's literally 5 yards back from the end zone. It looks like it's going to be a tackle for loss, like just so easy. And somehow he gets around two dudes and just runs over them into the end zone. I mean, the guy, when he has the ball in his hands, he just makes things happen. And, you mentioned sometimes the production doesn't necessarily match the athletic metrics. Sometimes we can get caught up in the RAS score and, are they really that good of an athlete, or are they that good of a player? But it's not the first time we've seen someone step into that role and say, oh, they had a poor 40, but when the ball's in their hands, somehow they find a way to run away from people. Bucky was criticized a lot for his 40 time. And I think he ran like almost a 4.5, and a lot of people thought he was going to run way faster than that. There's plenty of times last year where he was running all over the place, breaking tackles, and that's what matters. I am with you. I don't think Tyrone Tracy is just going to roll over. I think he's going to have a role in this backfield. Now, the tough part is you would just automatically think in your head, well, he should have a receiving role. He's a former wide receiver, only has 2 or 3 years under his belt of actually playing running back. But at the same time, Cam Scadaboo excels catching the ball out of the backfield. So that kind of hurts Tracy as being the guy for that. Now, maybe he has the trust of Daboll in this offense to kind of carry that load and be the guy when it comes crunch time, because we've seen plenty of coaches who find that one guy that they trust and they just throw him out there. I mean, the Patriots did that for years with James White. No matter who the running back was, when it came crunch time, 2-minute drill, they always threw him out there. So I think that Tyrone Tracy might have that role to start with. But I do think that this kind of leans towards more being a split backfield, where both the guys are going to have the opportunity and they'll probably ride the hot hand.
Yeah, this is a case of a fantastic landing spot. Tracy got it last year. Scadaboo got it this year. Both of them are guys that are going to play a lot, and are two dudes that people didn't necessarily expect to be NFL caliber running backs from once upon a time in their lives, and they're both making the most of it.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. It's not necessarily two guys we would have projected to, end up in situations like this, but here we are. They have it. So we have to carry forward and move on with that. But again, we appreciate everyone who's tuned in so far. So if you're here, please like the stream. It helps us out a ton. We just talked about our Discord launch a few minutes ago, so we're super excited for that. So stay tuned for some more information there, and we will continue to carry on, Coach. And let's talk about another situation that I think you're going to really enjoy, and that's the 49ers wide receiver room. So if Hoff is here, I'm sure he can provide some more context as a stressed out fan. But let's start with the poll you had the other day, Coach. You threw one up over on our X at the FF Mediators, and you posed the question, who's going to finish higher, Shakir or Ricky Pearsall this upcoming season? So tell us your thoughts, and let's talk about the wide receiver room there in San Francisco.
Well, I've been a big Pearsall believer. Pearsall's healthy. He's practicing, has looked phenomenal thus far in camp. I just think the dude is shifty and the guy can produce. He played really well down the stretch last year. He also, comparing him to Shakir, like Shakir last year, I think I had it pulled up. He caught 76 passes for 821 yards last year. Like, I just don't see a lot of room for anything more than that with Shakir. Josh Allen's obviously an elite quarterback, but for whatever reason, he doesn't just pummel one guy. I think Josh Palmer coming there as just a okay, solid 2-3 will be enough to make that kind of a muddy mess there in Buffalo again. Keon Coleman, everybody's saying, looks a lot better. So I think Shakir kind of produces about like he did last year. I do not have really high hopes for Dalton Kincaid or any tight end that plays with Josh Allen for that matter. So I think you're going to see a significant rise from a guy like Ricky Pearsall with the 49ers in comparison to Shakir, because I think obviously the draft capital as a first-round receiver is high. So I just think he's going to get peppered with targets compared to last year, and I think you're going to see a significant increase when it comes to Ricky Pearsall this coming season.
Yeah, I think Scott sums it up pretty well here.
Yes.
Shakir's just safe, no real upside. Totally agree with that. I mean, like Coach said, is he going to be the wide receiver 1 for the Buffalo Bills? Maybe, but what does that mean? I mean, we see Josh Allen. He's going to run the ball. Obviously, James Cook had a fantastic year last year, and he kind of spreads it out. I mean, Shakir had 100 targets, 76 receptions, only 800 yards, and only 4 touchdowns, and that amounted to a PPR rank of wide receiver 37. So we're talking about a guy who's not necessarily going to suddenly jump and be in that top 24 wide receiver range. Whereas if something happens in San Francisco, where say, for example, we miss Ayuk for the remainder of the season, we don't necessarily get some other players that are going to be healthy in San Francisco, I could absolutely see a situation where Ricky Pearsall could find his way as being the wide receiver 22, 23, 24, because he does get that volume. I mean, we look at the workload he had last year. Only 46 targets with 31 receptions for 400 yards, only appeared in 11 games, and a lot of those were just kind of split among, half snaps or less than that. And I think a lot of this comes down to Ayuk's health. I mean, we saw Ricky Pearsall had his own health issues. He had the gunshot in the offseason. So there were so many things stacked against him. But coming out of Florida, he was a big play threat, man. He's got a ton of catches, acrobatic. We need to see Brock Purdy have a guy, and I think there's absolutely a world where Ricky Pearsall can be him.
Well, I think Shakir is a great flex. He's a great flex option for your team. I just think Pearsall is at least that. I think if Pearsall plays up to his capability, he's more than that. But I think, a low ball for him would be as a flex guy. That's just my feeling. I've also been a Ricky Pearsall guy for a while since watching him play at Florida. So I do think, his upside is higher than Shakir's, especially in that offense with Purdy. And especially if Ayuk and those guys stay hurt around him, that's going to help him a lot too.
Yeah, I mean, and let's go back and look at the games where he had true opportunity the last 2 of the year. So week 17 against Detroit, he played 70% of the snaps, had 10 targets, 8 receptions for 141 yards and a touchdown, amounting to 29.7 fantasy points. The next week against Arizona in week 18, he had 92% of the snaps with 8 targets, 6 catches, 69 yards, and a touchdown, amounting 18.9 points. So when he got his opportunity to play, he played really, really well. So I think that he absolutely is the one that has the better upside and is probably the better long-term play, especially if we're talking dynasty. So that's a guy that I'd want in redraft or dynasty this year.
Yep, totally agree.
Well, Coach, let's continue to carry on with our news here, and let's talk about another one of your Miami guys. I hate we're having to do this. It's very frustrating for someone like me who wants to.
Yeah, I hate it.
Yeah, I know you do. I can see it on your face. And let's talk about someone who you were talking about in the offseason, and that's going to be Elijah Arroyo. Well, actually, we just got a super chat, Coach, so let's pause on Elijah Arroyo. Hold that thought. We appreciate Jay.
I was ready to talk Arroyo, but yeah. I'm here for Jay. Let's do it, Jay.
Jay saved the day and made me not have to talk about that. So I love that. But Jay comes in. He says, what strategy would you use for an 8-team PPR with 2 flex spots? So when you shrink down to leagues like this where it's 8 to 10, I mean, the rosters just become loaded. So there's a lot to consider there. I mean, you have to wonder if you want to attack any type of specialty position, whether that's quarterback or tight end, or if you can get one of those elite guys, does it change your roster? We previously did a video, Tyler and I, where we talked about this is kind of the year to wait on drafting the quarterback, just simply because there are so many players that are available. So I would certainly do that, especially given the fact this is an 8-team league. We're talking about a bunch of quarterbacks that are going to be available. So let your league mates spend those high draft picks on getting guys like Lamar, maybe Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts, and you draft a guy later on who could provide equal upside and is going to be significantly cheaper. So that's certainly something I would start with. If you can get your hands on one of those elite tight ends, Hoff with us and our group has talked about, do you take Brock Bowers in the first or do you take George Kittle in the 4th? And I think that's something you can exploit too. I mean, the difference between those 2 players, not necessarily a ton, but Kittle, when he plays, has been absolutely fantastic, and he's much cheaper.
Yeah, 100%. I do like the tight end, going with the tight end there because of the value, like you said. But I like to look down at the running backs here when I get down in this area. Because there's a couple guys down there that I think you could steal that could be flex guys for you, like James Conner. a DeAndre Swift, who right now seems to be clearly the best guy in Chicago by a mile. So therefore he's going to carry the ball a lot and catch the ball out of the backfield a lot, which will help your PPR. You can roll the dice on a guy like Aaron Jones in that same spot, who's also a very diverse running back. He can do a little bit of everything when it comes to that position as well.
Yeah, and I think hitting on the running backs here, Coach. You mentioned Swift, you mentioned Aaron Jones, James Conner. Those are guys that I think you can draft later. Maybe not James Conner, but Jones and Swift. In the last redraft we did, which was a 12-team league, both of those guys went in the 7th round. So in your draft, just kind of projecting some easy math, I would expect them to be somewhere in the 8th, 9th round range. So you can get some running back stability later on. I would certainly be looking to target some running backs early, just given the fact that you can cash in on those PPR points, get some solid bell cows early since it's an 8-team league. You want to try and walk away with a guy like Bijan Gibbs or maybe a Bucky Derrick Henry type. I know Derrick Henry's not going to offer necessarily those PPR points, but he's just so dang good. And he's in an offense that's going to run the ball a ton. I mean, as the RB4 last year, he scored 336 points. He had almost 2,000 yards, and he's trying to get 2,000 yards again. He's said that publicly multiple times.
Yep. Without doubt. You also want to look at targeting a guy like Jacoby Myers. It kind of grosses me out to say that with Chris watching. I'm sure he's going to catch a bunch of balls there for the Raiders in Vegas, and he will have a significant impact and will be a perfect flex option as well.
Yeah, and I think another flex to think about too would be, we've mentioned Calvin Ridley already once on the stream. He's another one that you could draft probably in the 7th or 8th round and get some immediate production with some big-time playmaking ability. A guy like Roma Dunze, who went into the 6th round in our last mock draft, it might not last just because of how much he's getting some hype right now. But he's another guy where I think he has the opportunity to be the one in Chicago, and we'll talk more about that later, Coach. So let's not dive too much there. And then Pete's in here, so I have to say it just because it's driving me crazy. Maybe a guy like Devontae Adams, you take him in the 4th or 5th round. That's going to be stable production where he's tied to a big name quarterback in Matthew Stafford, and he's going to have the real opportunity to have that Cooper Kupp type role opposite of Puka Nacua.
Yeah, well, Matt, how soon are you taking one of those elite quarterbacks? Like that's been a highly debated topic over the last few months. Is how soon do you take one of these quarterbacks?
So I'm really in the camp in redraft where I'm sitting back and I'm waiting, just given the fact of, I want to keep referencing just because it's a real tool where we use real analysts, other people in this community. I drafted my first quarterback in the 10th round, and it was Justin Herbert. I'd be extremely comfortable with Justin Herbert as the 10th quarterback taken in the 10th round of the draft. So there's a ton of value there. Guys like Burrow and Hurts, they went in the 4th round. So in his draft, that's probably somewhere around the 5th round, maybe. Jaden Daniels went in the 3rd round. So that's just too soon for me because I think you're passing up some big name talent when we're talking about a difference of, 30 to 40 fantasy points if all things were equal and it repeated what happened last year. But there's also room for improvement for, guys like Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes could absolutely play better than he has been in the last couple of years. We could see Kyler Murray fully healthy be better if he runs the ball. We could see Justin Herbert, who has an array of weapons this upcoming year, be better than he has been and get back to the form where he was the quarterback 2 in 2021.
Yeah, I feel really comfortable with a Herbert, a Goff, a Trevor Lawrence, Dak Prescott.
Dak is
those
another
guys,
one.
Yeah, those guys later, and then follow that up even later with a guy like Geno Smith. I would feel really comfortable with a Herbert Geno Smith combo there. That way, I could fill my rest of my roster up with really good players. I'd feel good about that.
Yeah. Well, Jay, we greatly appreciate the super chat. If you have other questions, be sure to throw them in the chat. If you're on the clock, need some help, message us over on X. We are happy to give you some assistance. I think you've got a ton to consider here, with a ton to break down. Excited to see what team you can pull up. So be sure to come back and let us know.
Another thing to mention too here, Matt, is, with our Discord launching, you're going to have the ability to ask us these questions literally anytime you want to and have that access to our answers, which will then lead to like trade reviews, team reviews, all kinds of other options there too.
Yeah.
So
and our rankings. I know
Yep.
Pete and Hoff have been putting in a bunch of time to their redraft rankings. Coach and I, obviously, we spend a ton of time on Dynasty, so we've got a bunch of work put into Dynasty rankings, and a bunch of work going into Dynasty team reviews. So we're really excited to launch that and kind of interact with you guys even more. But let's continue to carry on, Coach. And we've got one more question, and then we'll get back to Elijah Arroyo. I'm going to make you wait a little bit longer.
Man.
So Matt says, hey guys, what strat would you recommend for a 3 wide receiver league and a 2 wide receiver, 2 running back, 2 flex league? They're both 12-team leagues. So, I mean, obviously, I'm assuming this means just 3 wide receivers in general with the other ordinary positions. I think that if I have a 3 wide receiver league, which I have a few of those, I'm approaching that where I want as much stability as possible. So that's kind of the situation where I'm going to focus on maybe going back-to-back wide receiver early. If you could get a stack like Neighbors at the 109 and Drake London at the 204, that's what I want. I want the ability to get 2 big name wide receivers. Now, obviously, Neighbors has an injury, so put an asterisk on that and let's figure out what's going on there. But Drake London is the guy that I want to try and leave every single draft with. I think he is a fantastic anchor. He's cheaper than a lot of these other names, and I think he has the ability to finish top 4 at wide receiver.
Yeah, and I'm with Matt on the Drake London thing. And a lot of people are big like draft wide receivers guys. I'm the opposite there. To me, if you can get one of the elite backs, if you can get Gibbs, if you can get Bijan, if you can get those guys, Genty, then you do that if you can. Like I'm just a big believer in that. And I can circle back later and still get a London or a JSN in the second round.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm fine with that too. I mean, if it's more of a traditional league with the 2 wide receiver, 2 running back, 2 flex, I'm not going to change my strategy too much. Again, I'm going to fade quarterbacks in redraft, kind of let them come to me. If a value falls, so say, for example, you're at the 502 and Lamar Jackson's there, yeah, take him because he's really dang good. But if you're at the 402 and you're drafting Lamar at his ADP, I think I would rather take a guy like Kenneth Walker or maybe a Garrett Wilson or Devontae Adams, someone who can give me more production versus a quarterback who might score the same as the guy drafted in the 10th round. Because again, we have to factor in, is there any regression for some of these guys? Now, obviously, the guys like Lamar, the guys like Josh Allen, they're going to feast. They're going to score a ton of fantasy points. But, Jalen Hurts last year, he only scored 320 fantasy points. That's not necessarily a ton, and then we're talking about some other quarterbacks like let's just pull up Jared Goff. Jared Goff scored 336 fantasy points. So he scored 16 more points than Jalen Hurts, and you're drafting him 6 rounds later. So I think that's what I'm going to try and take advantage of, and that's what I'm going to do to see if I can find some more value for my team.
Yeah.
Well,
totally agree there.
There's someone lurking in the background, so who knows what's about to happen, but I'll let him make his own appearance if he chooses. But there he is.
Oh,
there he
gosh.
is.
Oh, no. What's going on?
Put the guns away, bro.
I don't want to scare anybody. You're right.
Yeah. Well, what's going on, Pete?
Not much, man. I hopped in. I've been watching the stream a little bit. I was actually in Disco and Sleaze's stream, but I was watching you guys, and I figured I'd pop on over.
Well, we appreciate you being here, man. Thanks for joining us. And since you joined, that means we get to put the next question on you without you even really know it's happening. So William asked us, how much do we like Woody Marks with Mixon's uncertainty?
I like him in Dynasty. I think that they're going to add somebody to that room, though. I think you have Chubb. I think you have Marks. Marks is fine. I don't know if you're in a deep league. I always say this, like if you're in a deep league and the bench spots, or if you have enough bench spots, then yeah, you could take Marks. But there's a lot of young running backs that I'd rather take a chance on at the back of my rosters, like a Taj Brooks, like a DJ Giddens. I'd rather take chances on those guys over Marks, but Marks should have a role. But again, I don't think they're done adding to that room. So
I was thinking about the Mixon thing this morning on my old man walk that I take every morning, and Mostly because I'm pissed that we traded for him the other day. Like, I felt really good about it for like 9 hours, and then his ass just. But anyway, I think one of two things is true with Mixon. I think ultimately he's okay. They're just playing it completely safe. When the season gets here, he'll be fine. Like, I think there's a possibility that is true. He don't need the reps. He's done this a million years. No big deal. Or he's completely screwed and his season might be over. Like, I really think those two extremes are kind of where we're at. One of those two things, in my opinion. I don't think it's going to be one of those things where Mixon comes back week 3 and it's fine. Either he's going to be okay when the season begins, or it's getting ready to be really bad.
Yeah, I think I'm with you guys. We'll see what happens with Mixon. I'm just going to kind of wait. I'm with you, Coach. We co-managed that team. We flipped that deal around. We got Joe Mixon. We were so pumped. And then 9 hours later, we were like, what did we just do?
We basically traded James Conner for Joe Mixon and Rashad White.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm feeling good there, right?
Yeah,
I was.
I actually thought it was a good trade when it happened.
Yeah, and we traded for Rashad White. Do you know how hard that was to do, Pete? Do you know how hard that was for me to agree?
When I saw it happen, I was very surprised.
Yeah, it was tragic, but that's what happens when I make deals for guys I don't like. Bad luck. Well, Coach, next
look, there's a Pete question. You see this?
Pete is the guy, man. He's a man of the people. He just gets all the questions. But Matt, you're gonna have to wait 1 second because I think this question is for us, not for Pete. He doesn't get to answer it. Is if you can't land one of the big 3 tight ends, is passing until the late round to get Kincaid or Loveland a good idea? Personally, I'm not drafting Kincaid. I don't understand
absolutely
why we keep hyping him
not.
up. It's not there. Nothing's happened. We can talk about what Josh Allen does, but so far it's not equated to anything for the tight end position. Doesn't mean he's not going to have some games. Doesn't mean he's not going to score some fantasy points. But generally speaking, I think there are better plays than taking a guy like Dalton Kincaid. Now, Loveland is the interesting one. I think there's a lot to like there. Can he step into that role? I think so. I think he's the tight end 1 right now. I mean, we've already seen him running with the ones. Coach, I'll let you talk a little bit more about that because you're plugged in there. But I do think that it's a little bit riskier. So maybe a guy like Zach Ertz later on, you can draft him and you might get some more stable production. But long term, like towards the end of the season, I could absolutely see Loveland being a producer in fantasy.
Yeah, well, it won't be the end of the season. Like, he's going to be the starter from the very beginning. That's been made very clear so far in camp. Every single rep where there's been one tight end on the field, and with the ones, Loveland's got every one of them. Komet's been rolling with the 2s unless it's been 12 personnel or higher. So Loveland is getting ready to be a factor immediately. Now, what is he? How great? I don't know. I'm not saying he's Trey McBride, but he's better than Dalton Kincaid. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that, we've said this about Dalton Kincaid from the jump. Like, Josh Allen doesn't throw the ball to tight ends. He just doesn't. I do think Ben Johnson's going to script some stuff for Loveland, just like he did for Laporta. So, yeah, I mean, I would like to have a piece of Loveland. I don't want Dalton Kincaid.
Pete, you want to answer anything, or you want us to go to your specialty questions since you're the man of the people?
No, I mean, I'll say that I was very hard on Loveland.
You were too hard, some would say.
But my opinions was valid were my concerns because I was worried that he was going to be hurt. We're seeing the concerns I had for Luther Burden right now. Luther Burden's getting yelled at in practice because he can't line up correctly because he's missed time in OTAs and he's missed time in the beginning of training camp. That was my concern with Loveland. I was worried that Komet was going to get 2-3 weeks of practice and Loveland was going to come in behind. And I thought Loveland would have a slower start. I'm now in on Loveland, at least in redraft. I mean, Jonnu Smith goes like 9 spots ahead of Loveland. I would take Loveland over Jonnu.
Yeah.
I think I would take Tyler Warren still over Loveland, to be honest with you, just because there's not a lot of target competition. And I think they're going to get creative with him. The Dalton Kincaid thing is concerning because I thought, all right, I was never a big fan of Kincaid either, but I thought maybe with the knee injury last year that had something to do with it. But they're saying he has a little bit of a knee. His knee is still an issue. So
yeah, he missed practice, right?
Yeah, I think he's back at practice, but even
Yeah.
still, the fact that he's missing practice for it at all is ridiculous. He's not an old vet. He doesn't need to be missing time like getting a vet day.
Yeah, and I think Kincaid's a decent player. I just, for whatever reason, Josh Allen's just not throwing the ball at his tight ends. He never has, never will.
Coach, you want to comment on Burden at all, or you want to move on?
Oh, well, Burden, all those things, all those concerns are valid. I did see the interview yesterday with DJ Moore where they asked him about it, and he reminds us, Ben Johnson's changing the culture there. He is not playing around with anything. He's like, if you're supposed to be 2 outside the hash and you're 1 outside the hash, you're getting out. And he's losing his mind on people, and you get one more chance, and if you do it again, he's throwing you out. And it was Burden's first practice. It wasn't like his 5th practice and he's screwing up. It was his first, so I'll give him that. But at the same time, this is your job. You literally have nothing else to do but study your playbook, so get it right. I did see, he had a catch today. He had apparently a pretty good practice today. The Bears had a bit of a shortened practice today. But all reports were that Burden, had a solid day today. So maybe he learns from that. Ben Johnson's not playing in games. The Bears need that. Hopefully it'll help Burden. He'll either produce or he'll get set on the bench.
Yeah. Well, Pete, there is a question just for you. So let's just jump straight to it. It says, what is your outlook for Marvin Mims, both in fantasy and in real life this year?
I think Mims is going to take a step forward. I don't think Mims is a guy in redraft that I want. I'm okay with having him in Dynasty in hopes that he can continue to take steps forward. They're going to continue to get creative with Mims. He's looked good. But overall, the only guys I want to own in this offense are Nix, Ingram, Harvey, and Sutton. I don't want any of the other pass catchers. I can understand a world where you take J.K. Dobbins too, because I think he has touchdown upside. But I
RB1, J.K. Dobbins.
I prefer other guys over Dobbins in his range, but I like Mims, but he's just not a guy that I think you're going to be able to count on consistently on a week-by-week basis.
All right.
Hey, I've seen some Troy Franklin hype the last 2 days. Right? Am I crazy?
Yeah, he I don't know. He looks like a lot of people are saying he looks like completely different. I know it's a lot of camp talk, but he's been making plays like so, which is encouraging. I mean, you can only steam up so much. I mean, Franklin, I'm not expecting to be a big time player, but he might make the team, which I couldn't say going into camp that I felt super confident about. So,
well, I'm glad you said it could be camp talk. That's something everybody needs to keep in mind. You read this stuff on X and you see all this, some of this is just complete garbage, BS made up by whoever's trying to blow something up to spin a narrative. Sometimes the truth is not, as clear as it seems, and you just need to pump the brakes a little bit. You would think Caleb Williams is the worst quarterback ever, and maybe he is. I tend to buy that way too often, but even I are at this point of trying to pump the brakes a little bit on that.
Well, I mean, let's talk about some camp hype anyways. And this one's going to be fun because Coach is not prepared for this. This is not on our list, but it just came to my mind. Let's talk about who's running first team with the Chiefs. Tyquan Thornton, former Baylor Bear. Coach absolutely loved this kid coming to the NFL, going to the New England Patriots. Has kind of, not really found himself, bounced around a little bit, but lands in New England at the end of last year. And here we are. He's running with the first team. Coach, are you interested?
Yeah, just because it's Tyquan Thornton, and no one was a believer more than me. And I've dropped. I don't have a share left in the world of him. Maybe I will after tonight. I did see that where he's running with the ones and yada yada. No, he's not any good. Move on. Sorry.
Rostership in Dynasty right now over on Sleeper, 8%. That's way too low for a guy that's running with ones right now. It's interesting. He's a speedster. We've already seen
second round draft pick, right? I think second round draft pick.
He was a second round pick in New England.
Keep in mind, though, Hollywood and Worthy are not practicing right now.
I get it. I'm just saying.
He did cook Trent McDuffie. I watched the video, but it's also one-on-ones, and it's not like sometimes
You don't
they do
get space
one-on-one.
like that.
Sometimes they do one-on-ones at the sideline, right?
Yeah.
They're doing it looks like pretty open field.
Mhm.
So I mean that's a drill setup for the DB to lose almost.
Yeah.
Hey, Pete, you know who is not cooking Denzel Ward today?
Denzel Ward, who was not Tillman.
Yeah. Yeah, he was not cooking Denzel Ward today in the clips I saw. It was bad.
Tillman, I didn't see that.
Yes. Yeah.
Are you sure?
Locked up. I mean, it was just like throw away the key.
Did you see the report that said Tillman's Flacco's number one target so far?
Well, who else is he gonna throw it to?
Judy.
Judy is so overrated.
That's right. That's Tyler's boy. That's Tyler's boy.
Deontay Johnson's kind of interesting.
He is.
I'm not that in on him, but like he had a good stretch with Carolina last year at one point.
Can he get cut and find his way on the Bengals and complete the AFC North? That's what I want. Just
Matt was a huge believer. Matt loves some Deontay Johnson.
I did. He's a good player, man. He's been a great player.
He's washed.
Yeah, well, so is Tyquan Thornton.
I think Judy's overrated for sure as well.
Yeah, I do too. He's okay.
Well, let's talk about some more camp news, and then we'll get to Trone's question in here. So bear with us, Trone. Let's talk about Elijah Arroyo, coach. Your tight end coming from Miami finds his way in Seattle. They cut Noah Fant, so it looks like it's wheels up for him to be the guy, kind of being the tight end one for this team. I think there's some opportunity here for him early on. I mean, if we look at what Noah Fant did last year, appearing in 14 games, had 64 targets, 48 receptions, 500 yards, and only one touchdown. And he's an athletic tight end, no denying that. But Elijah Arroyo is a freak athlete. Not to mention he'll put his hand in the dirt and he'll block.
Yeah, they're moving Arroyo all over the place in camp so far. Cutting Fant says a whole lot about what they think about Elijah Arroyo, in my opinion. Literally everything you see talks about he's running with the ones, he's lining up all over the field. This is a guy that has a lot of experience coming out of Miami as well. He did have some injury concerns while he was in college, so there is that. But he's a guy from the beginning. When I say beginning, like the beginning of last season, I was telling Matt, this Arroyo guy might be something. Like there's something there. Like he's a really good athlete. He's a willing blocker, not the greatest blocker in the world, but he'll get down there and he'll fight. And that alone, I think, will help translate as well. So, yeah, I'm glad someone in this stream traded me Elijah Arroyo. I'll say that right now.
Ooh. Pete?
I got Mason Taylor back, who they're saying Mason Taylor looks phenomenal too. So we got to see whose Cam Piper we buying into.
It's true. Okay. This is true.
They're saying Taylor just slotted in like automatically at the tight end one. Now you could probably say the same about Arroyo, but AJ Barner's still there.
Yeah, he's good.
So. AJ Barner's probably the more likely one to replace him for actually, run downs to run block more.
Yeah.
But I do think that Arroyo does something that none of the other guys on that roster can do. Coach, you mentioned his athleticism. It flashed early at Miami. And if you go pull that play against Georgia Tech where he just runs that straight seam, he hits like 24 miles an hour. Like the dude is flying. It was one of the fastest plays all year.
Pete, who would you rather have as your real life quarterback? This is not fantasy. Justin Fields or Darnold?
Darnold.
Yeah, I think so.
Look, Fields is flashy. He looks.
Now Kevin O'Connell's obviously not coaching him now, but
no. But I mean, look, Fields is flashy and fun, and I think when you think about both guys have had their issues in their careers, you think, okay, well, Fields has more upside because he can run, but like eventually, like that's the benefit. Like I used to say that about Jalen Hurts a lot. Like these guys that can run. The quarterbacks that can run, they buy themselves more time to develop because they can make plays with their legs. So you can be a little more patient. But like Fields has had a ton of time, and he still hasn't developed into that passer.
So I have an interesting theory on that, especially when it comes to tight ends. Like when tight ends are successful, it's because they have really good pocket passers to get them the ball. Like those are the kind of guys that seem to succeed. They have quarterbacks that can stand in the pocket and deliver. Fields has never been great throwing the ball to tight ends.
No, he
No.
has.
But he does check the ball down a bunch, so that's Brees
He
Hall.
is great for that. Yeah,
Brees Hall.
no doubt.
Wheels up, man.
That was why I was kind of not like you guys know Mason Taylor was my tight end 3 coming in, and I moved Ferguson ahead of Taylor once the landing spots happened. But I mean, volume should be there for Taylor. I'm hoping, but we'll see. Can we agree that this is the best environment Justin Fields has been in his career?
Yeah, I think that's probably fine. Most playmakers for sure.
Yeah, Brees, Raylan. Offensive line should be Jets O-line should be better, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Fashanu gets another year. They brought in
Tucker.
Free agency, Vera Tucker. I think Morgan Moses is back.
No, I feel like Morgan Moses signed somewhere else.
He might have signed. Morgan Moses is super underrated.
Amen, brother. A former Washington Commander football teamer, just kind of did his work in the trenches. Yeah. No one cared, but I watched.
He went to New England, by the way.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, that made sense. I remember because I kept saying how New England's O-line got better too. They brought in Campbell, Moses, and they brought in Bradbury. But I guess I just forgot that Moses left. I gotta look at the Jets starting.
Yeah. Well, let's get to Trone's question, guys. He says, any suggestions for a specific strategy or players to target in an auction draft? 0 RB, hero RB, 12-team PPR. I'll be honest, man. I don't do a ton of auctions, so I'm not helpful there. What would you say, Pete?
I love auction drafts. Auction is the most fun format, even for Dynasty, dude. I've been seeing there was so Chev does on MLF football, they have an auction thing where like 12 players get put up at one time and you blind bid, I think, on players, where it's like you blind bid auction or something like that, where you bid on players and then there's a period and it's a slow draft and it goes through. I would say, as for like my suggestion, I always try to target auction like this. I try to keep in mind that like Serpentine in auction, if you can leave with like 4 players that are projected to go the first 3 rounds, like you're doing okay, right? Because you're basically stealing. In a regular Serpentine, you wouldn't get that kind of value. So I always aim to try to do that, and then I kind of sit on my money for a couple of rounds. That's the best advice I can give you. But auction is so random. I'm in a league that the one owner pays up for Derrick Henry every year. Overpays. He gets bid up $20 extra than the next running back just because people know he's going to pay. So it just depends, man. Like but that's what I would say. I would say, try to get at least 4. If you get 4 guys that go top 2 rounds normally in Serpentine and pay, and then just sit on your money, like if you hit there, you get guys at good cheap values. You'll have to sit and wait and it'd be boring, but that's usually what I try to do. So,
Coach, anything to add?
Yeah, no, I have almost no experience in auction draft. I mean, I'm not here to BS you. That's just the facts.
Coach is just spitting the truth.
By the way, the Jets brought in Membao. I forgot. So he's their right tackle. That's your replacement.
Membo's a freak athlete, too.
Yeah, he is.
Well, let's talk about Scott's question here, Coach, and I'm going to kick it to you. How many starts are you going to get with Joe Flacco? I mean, we mentioned earlier, we both said he's going to be the starter. How long will that last?
Well, honestly, the Cleveland defense has potential to be really, really, really good. Mm-hmm. There's a world where, if Flacco plays decent, they hang in this thing for a while. It wouldn't shock me for him to play the whole season if he stayed healthy and things went okay. I do think there's a chance. Pickett, I don't know what's going on there. If Pickett comes back healthy, one of those 4 guys is getting traded or cut. Or
they're not going to be carried forward. They're going to have to get one on the P squad and try to slip one through. Yeah,
they're going to have to.
Maybe they could do it with Shador. Does the team really want to pick up Shador on the P squad, do you think?
The bottom line to me is, I hate to say it, but this is just the truth. Like, if Shador's going to be a number 3 quarterback, then they're going to let him go because the circus is not worth a number 3 quarterback. Like, it just depends on how this thing goes. Like 2, maybe, but I just don't know that the circus is worth the guy that's going to be your number 3 quarterback.
Yeah, I don't disagree, guys. I really don't. I think if Flacco can be healthy and this team finds a way to play some good defense and continue to win games, I would expect him to start probably a majority of the year.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's Pete, Coach Hoff is in here. Best environment for Fields. People forget with fantasy how he was in those 2 full Bears seasons. I know one person who hasn't forgotten, and that's Coach. Anything you want to comment about those 2 full Bear seasons?
We're also not talking. We're talking we were talking regular when we said that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were. When I said the Fields Darnold thing, that was just regular football. Fields is a trash can. He's garbage. If he's playing, he can help your fantasy team because he can run. Like, I do see all the validity in that. I do. But I'm a scorned Bears fan. We drafted him early. He's between him and Trubisky. I don't even want to talk about it. And maybe Caleb, too.
We'll have to see. Well, let's continue with some more training camp news, guys. And let's talk
All right, now, Matt, hang on. Whoa. I got to ask you. Let's go ahead and get to this. Krosky Merritt.
That's where I was going. You cut me off before I could even say it.
All right, let's hear you. I want to hear you tell us all how great he is, and I want Pete to tell us all how he's going to get cut. Right?
Yeah, so it's not quite what Pete said, but since I get to talk first, I'm going to say that's what he said. Pete said Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt's terrible. He's going to get cut. He's not a guy you should roster. I'm here to tell you should roster him. Here's why. When we look at the Washington backfield, we just see a whole bunch of gray. It's just nothing special. Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt is the guy that has the electric spark that can provide something for this offense. Brian Robinson is what he is. He is a stable running back. Last 2 years, 187 attempts, 178 attempts. He's not commanding this backfield. He will have a role. He will be used at the goal line. Austin Eckler.
He's a solid back.
He's a solid back. That is what he is. Austin Eckler steps into this role. Obviously, he missed some times with the concussions. Is that going to roll over into this upcoming year? Maybe, maybe not. But at the same time, he only had 77 attempts last year. A lot of his work came in passing downs with the 35 receptions and 41 targets. Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt is a guy that you want to roster. I think he has the ability to take over this backfield. He has explosiveness. And, you're going to throw out his draft capital. I understand he was drafted in the 6th round at pick, whatever it was. I get it. But at the same time, the context behind it matters. He did not play last year due to ineligibility issues. And ordinarily, you'd say, well, what did he do wrong to not play? It wasn't his fault. It happened his first year when he got redshirted, and the NCAA and the team accidentally assigned the number to him, and he appealed it, and he lost. So it shouldn't have counted towards his ability to play. So he only played 1 game at Arizona. If you go back and watch his tape at New Mexico, he was a dude, man. I can't remember, Coach. If you can look it up, I know I sent it to you earlier. He had a ton of 20-yard runs in that season, and it was one of the highest in the entire NCAA. So he's a guy that can force missed tackles. He can make people miss. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. I think he is a complete package, and he's a guy that Washington targeted. If you go back and watch the clips for them in the draft room and the war room, it's someone they were debating on drafting earlier, and they just kept waiting and waiting and waiting, and they were able to get him towards the end of the draft. So, yeah, is it someone that didn't get the capital? Absolutely, he didn't. But it's also someone that I think stepping into a situation where there's opportunity for him. We're talking about him having to beat out Jeremy McNichols. I think he's better than him. Chris Rodriguez, I think he's better than him. Now we're looking at, is he the RB3? Can he get to 2? Can he get to 1? I think it's well within the possibility. And that's also talking about 2 guys who have had injury histories, B-Rob and Austin Eckler, getting banged up at different times of the year.
So for people that don't know, Matt is an actual lawyer. Like, he actually is a lawyer. And you sort of just felt every bit of that right there. He spent all day today. I don't know who he was representing, but I feel bad for him because he spent all day preparing his case for Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, clearly.
I'm ready. You're not wrong. I mean, Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt is the most important case I will present today, and it's one that I'm ready to win. So, Pete, go ahead and tell us why you think the 6th round guy is going to get cut, and we're going to keep, Chris Rodriguez or Jeremy McNichols for the 35th time. And go ahead, Pete. The floor's yours.
I don't have much to say. I don't doubt that he's going to make the roster, but it's important to note that he still has to stack days together. I mean,
Sure.
It's only a couple days. Legs are fresh. He's not in the dog days of camp. I think he's going to make the roster, but it's still important to remember that there's a chance he doesn't. He's a seventh-round pick. I think he's going to. If I had to put a percentage, I'd say it's probably an 80% chance that he makes the roster. He feels like he's a lock right now.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to remember that he still has to get through the dog days of camp. And so that's really my point. If there's a guy, he still is technically on the bubble. I think the beautiful thing, and I said this to Coach today, is roster cuts are only once now. They used to do it proactively a couple, like every week you cut down more and more. Like guys have way more time to make impacts on teams. But yeah, I think he's gonna make the team. So
yeah, and he's been making plays so far in camp. So just want to throw that out there. But go ahead, Coach.
Well, he's a guy you stash. He's going to be their third string running back at best. If it's redraft, he's completely useless. If it's dynasty, he may help you 2 or 3 years from now, maybe. That's something everybody needs to remember. Like and I understand why, because some of these guys are going to hit. Right when I took Brian Robinson in the third round several years back, all of a sudden that dude's been extremely useful for me. Right. Well, the Woody Marks and the DJ Giddens and the Jarquez Hunters, like most of those guys are going to be completely useless. Most of them, right? That's what people need to remember. We were talking about Kyle Monangai in this same section, pretty much with Krosky Merritt. Monangai has not got a single rep with the ones. Like all you see is how he's playing really well in camp. He's doing really good with the third team. He's got a few reps with the twos occasionally. But he's behind Swift. He's behind Roschon, who at all reports says he's been extremely average. So, I mean, will Monangai make the team if it ended today? Probably. But is he going to play this year? God, I hope not, because that means the other two guys were really terrible.
By the way, Krosky Merritt did get snaps at the ones.
I was just about to say that. But you mentioned another running back there, Coach. So I kind of want to tail off unless someone has something else they want to say about future Hall of Fame Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. But let's talk about DJ Giddens, Coach. You mentioned him. That's another running back who finds himself in a really good situation, looks to be the two in an offense that runs the ball a ton there in Indianapolis. If something should happen to Jonathan Taylor, he's another one of those guys that's going to vault up. It's definitely someone that we were all three targeting in Dynasty. I think the three of us probably have plenty of shares amongst us. But, if something happens in redraft, he's going to be one of those players that steps into a really good role.
Yeah, he's a premium handcuff, no doubt. And Jonathan Taylor's been known to get injured throughout his career. Definitely somebody you want to have on your team. Him and Ray Davis, like those two guys are handcuffs I really want a piece of if I can get. So there you go.
Yeah, I mean, Taylor was number one in opportunity share last year and number two in snap share. So if you're holding Giddens, you're holding him not because you think, okay, he's going to take some touches away and whatever. You're holding him because if Taylor gets hurt, you're getting a workhorse back. Like that's what you're getting. And Taylor has missed time, like you said. I mean, he missed 3 games last year, 7 games the year before that, 6 games the year before that. So he's only had 1 season where he's played fully healthy. That's it. So, yeah, Giddens is a great handcuff, especially if you're in deep enough league and redraft where you can afford to hold on to him and not start him. Yeah. Or not have to drop him. But, things happen in the year. Guys get injured, bye weeks. So, but I'm in on him.
Well, let's get to our last piece of news that Coach and I had prepped for, and let's talk about Isaiah Likely. He gets injured. Looks like he's going to be out for 6 weeks, have to get some surgery. What does that mean for him? I wouldn't really expect him to be necessarily drafted to start the year. I mean, Coach said the timeline looks like he might be back by week 1, but, I'd just temper expectations and expect him to be available around week 3. But at the same time, I don't know what kind of fantasy outlook he's going to have. So he's likely undrafted in redraft leagues. And if we're talking about dynasty outlook, really sucks for him. I know Pete's talked about and tweeted out there he was about to get a deal. So that really sucks for him. Really poor timing. But at the same time, we have to look at the other side. Mark Andrews Mark Andrews is someone that I know, Pete, you've been really high on him. He steps into that role where he's not necessarily going to have the question mark, because I know we all remember last year, Mark Andrews didn't start off hot. Isaiah Likely had that gigantic week 1, didn't really do too much after that. Andrews took a little bit to come on. I think he finished the year with 10 touchdowns. Lamar had that crazy year. Can he do it again? Possibly, but I do think this is good for the stock of Mark Andrews, in the sense of we never want to see a player get injured, but it is good for his stock.
Well, and likely the news came out initially like it was a high ankle. Turned out to be a small bone in his foot there that he broke and needed surgery on. They said 6 weeks. It's going to put him close to week 1, like you said. I do think your timeline there of week 2, week 3 seems more plausible. That being said, not a gigantic they dodged a bullet here, right? The Ravens really do need him there. That's another weapon for Lamar Jackson. He dodged a bullet. Everybody did. He's not going to miss as much time. I do think it would be nice if you're a Mark Andrews guy for Mark Andrews to play a week or 2 without him, and kind of reestablish himself as the best tight end in that room. And that can go a long way, especially in redraft.
Pete?
Yeah, I'm not buying that he's going to be back week 1. I think that's extremely optimistic. I think the Ravens have had a history of being optimistic on injuries. I'm not buying that he's going to be back for week 1. So, yeah, I don't really need to state too much on Andrews. I'm bullish on him. I don't really understand his cost. It's just he's one of the more mispriced players in my opinion this year. So.
Yeah, and I think it's also to the Ravens' benefit to not rush him back. Like Coach said, they dodged a bullet, and having another weapon not necessarily go down for the entire year. Why rush him back? You have Andrews. This team has a ton of talent all over the place. Let him get healthy. Use the other guys, and when you get him back and you can run him out there, do what you can. Now, if you're in some weird league that has a whole bunch of tight end bonuses and you start 2 or 3 tight ends, Charlie Kolar, that's the name to remember. He's going to step into that likely role. Athletic guy, produced big time at Iowa State. So he would be an interesting ad for me. Maybe in some weird dynasty leagues, he's probably out there on waivers. I looked earlier, his roster percentage is like 2%. So just a name to know.
Yeah.
We went deep on that one, son.
From the back, man. Sometimes you got to grab them and let them know.
Yeah, hey, I'm with you. I just added him as you spoke.
Really.
Charlie,
I'm kidding.
What about Thornton? How much are you going to drop on him, FAB?
Probably somewhere between 50 and 100. I did try to pick, so I didn't drop enough fab on. Who was that the other day? Oh, Hunter Renfrow.
Hunter
Renfrow
back.
him out from under me. He's looked good, man. He is. I mean, he's Allen Iverson, these dudes in Panther camp right now. He is crossing them up everywhere, bro.
I'll trade you.
Okay, let's do it.
Trade him the fab.
I'll trade you the 2. Oh, if you paid 2 fab, I'll give you 3 fab. You came out on top.
It's a win for nothing, Pete. A win for nothing. Think about it.
I'm going to get Tyquan Thornton in our league. You better pony up for him. I already got 2 big bids in mediators and the degens. So you better pony up. We're not getting them.
Hey, Pete, is there anything you want to add to the about the Discord thing? Anything you want to add to that? Me and Matt talked about it a few times.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's still people watching on First Street Fantasy right on the channel. We could see it. Come on over to Face Off. We're still gonna go both channels. We're gonna try to drop a little bit different content maybe on First Read, whether that's film breakdowns or whatever. We're kind of tinkering with some ideas, but we're still gonna be active there. But make sure you follow us on Face Off here, and then. Yeah, we're dropping the Discord on Friday. Discord's going to have a ton of information. If you like my DST rankings, my DST streamers, same with Hoff with the Kickers, that's going to all be dropped on the Discord before going on videos and stuff like that on YouTube. So that's going to be where it goes first. You'll have early access to all of that. You'll have private dynasty trade videos that we're going to have with mediators as well as us. Mediators are going to be dropping their favorite buys and sells for each month. And there's a lot. We're going to have a lot of cool stuff in there. And it's just going to be a nice way to just be able to interact with us. Twitter becomes a lot. people send me DMs or they tweet to me, and it's probably the same for you guys. And this will be one area where people can hang out with us and talk, and it'll be fun. And even during games, it'll be the most fun. Where when games are going live, and maybe we take some bets on stream, and we're all kind of rooting for them together. That'll be enjoyable as well. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. We're dropping that on Friday. We're gonna give at least one, maybe even two free memberships for the first 2 months out to people that watch on Friday. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah, so be sure you're subscribed to Face Off. We're gonna need you here. It's gonna be part of it. We're gonna have the opportunity for you to, like you said, get into Discord, have an ability to chat with us, see our rankings, see trade questions, see team reviews, all sorts of content out there to kind of help you guys, win some more games in fantasy. And I do want to shout out Scott because he did say something that I think is a shout out to both of you two because you mentioned it several times. He hasn't heard a lot of people talking about the snap information for these players in camp, and that does absolutely matter. So, big shout out to these guys. They've been putting in a ton of work behind the scenes, grinding film, grinding tapes, looking up information of what these players are doing, what they're doing on practice. So, well done, guys.
Yeah. Hey, I gotta get out of here. I don't know how long you guys are going still, but appreciate you guys having me on.
Sure.
And I'm dropping out, but I'll catch you guys.
See you, Pete.
Yeah, man.
Coach, is there anything else you want to talk about? I know we've been going for an hour and 20 minutes. We've kind of hit all of our camp highlights unless I missed something. So by all means, please let me know if I did.
No, I think one of the ones I would do want to mention is Rome Odunze.
Okay.
He's been fantastic. Ben Johnson's been, shouting him out, hyping him up about how he's a dominant X receiver. He gets a one-on-one with a corner. He's going to win it all day. Like, try to get a hold of Rome Odunze in your leagues if you can. Do it now while the price is down a little bit. Now's the time.
And shout out, we did a buy on Rome Odunze probably 4 months ago, I think. And we were talking about how he's one of those guys that can grow. People were down on him with the poor year one. How much of that was because of Caleb running for his life, not grasping the offense, Rome not necessarily being in the right situation. But you're right. The camp videos have Rome just absolutely looking fantastic. He seems like the guy that can eat. You talked about what Coach Ben Johnson said one-on-one. He said he's a guy who's going to win that matchup every time.
Yeah.
So, I really like what Rome has going forward. He's someone that I'm still going to buy and try and get, if I can, capitalize off of what you see right now. There might not be some people in your leagues that have checked in on all the training camp information. So now is the time to strike.
Yeah, I mean, it is prime time. Trying to think if I had anything else Bears wise, just because I've been watching so much of the Bears, obviously as a Bears guy. Not really. Caleb Williams has not been fantastic, but it is what it is. Brand new offense to learn. I don't have a ton more there that we haven't already talked about. Burden, we've talked about Swift, we've talked about a little bit about all those guys.
Yeah, I mean, we've hit a lot of Bears, we've hit a lot of Miami Hurricanes today, but there's lots of news, and that will continue to come in. So we are live.
Speaking of Miami, Tua has been fantastic. Like I've read nothing but how great Tua has played in camp so far. Like he has been elite. I think me and Matt talked about this the other night. Like the Dolphins keep every time you turn around, somebody else gets hurt. We were having this discussion this morning, I guess, and someone broke their ankle or something.
They tore their ACL while we were talking about the Dolphins.
Yeah. But Tua has been really good. Like Tua is good if he's healthy. Obviously, that's a caveat here. And as a Tua owner, it makes me a little sick to my stomach a lot of the time. But when he plays, he's good, and so is the offense.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens with him going forward. I mean, you mentioned it. When he's healthy, he's a big-time player. McDaniel, he'll scheme up this offense. I think it's kind of the year to prove it. And, there's some talent there. I mean, obviously they lost Jonnu Smith. They bring in Darren Waller. Is that going to matter as much? I don't know. But, you've got Waddle and you've got Tyreek. And I think both those guys are going to get their opportunities. Same with Devon Achane. So we'll see what happens. But, I think that's it for me, Coach, unless you got any last-second comments. One from Scott here. Would you buy Tyreek Hill for a second-round pick in Dynasty, Coach? Personally, I'm selling him. If I'm in some type of ultra compete win now team and you want to send the 212 to go get him, I'm not going to fault you too much.
No, it's really risky right now. Maybe mid-season if my team's doing really good and I want to get put over the hump, then yeah. I would hate to buy him now, then my season just not go the way I thought it would. People get hurt or something. Now I'm stuck with Hill mid-season. I can't get rid of him.
Yeah, you're unlikely to recoup that. But again, if you're in some sort of win now build and you can compete and you think it's going to be the 110, 111, or excuse me, well, yeah, I guess that works. But a late second, I'm okay with that. That's fine.
Yeah.
But personally, I wouldn't do it. I'd get someone else.
Yeah, same here.
All right, well, that's going to do it for us, guys. So be sure to like the stream, subscribe to the Face Off Sports Network if you haven't already. If you're watching on First Read Fantasy, please subscribe there too. But also be sure to go over to Face Off, where we're going to have a majority of our content. We look forward to doing this. We are live every single Wednesday. We've got the Discord launch on Friday. There's so much to happen. I think Coach Pete and I are going to talk some preseason football, not this weekend, but next weekend. Maybe we talk after the Hall of Fame game this weekend. Football's back. We're really excited to do this with you guys. Thanks for being here, and we'll catch you next time.